gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast, and we ask the question, where is Joe Biden? And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back. Another edition of the Right Guys podcast. I have to apologize. I'm so sorry I was not available on Friday. I got caught up in the IT outage.
I thought it was a cyber attack.
All those things, you're like, oh, wow, every flight is like delayed or canceled in the world. I just so happened to try and fly out at 6 a.m. that day. So after it happened. So I got stuck in an airport. I would have been back to do a show, but by the time I reached my destination, it was already too late. So I apologize for that. Lots has happened. Thought we'd be able to recap RNC, but yesterday, midday, Joe Biden, or I think we'll just preface this, whoever controls his social media accounts, withdrew from the DNC, the Democratic nomination. I don't like thinking like this. Josh, I don't like being a conspiracy theorist. The left brands us that way. I don't like thinking about it. Do I think if there's certain things about the JFK assassination that don't add up? Absolutely. The more you learn about ballistics, and if you've ever shot a Carcano rifle, you know that that's not an easy shot to make. But I try and step back and not really worry about that and think about that. But with this, there's just so much coming out even right now. It's impossible. It's impossible to ignore. Sorry, just want to make sure I wasn't giving any feedback. He signs. Let's get into it right now because I was showing you this and you were shocked. Joe Biden allegedly, and I say allegedly because we have no video or photographic proof that Joe Biden signed this letter. It was not on White House letterhead. It was on his personal. It just said Joseph R. Biden Jr. at the very top. So they didn't even get their hands on the White House letterhead, and it was only shared on his social media accounts.
Which is crazy.
We know that his entire campaign staff learned about this 1 minute before it was posted. So This wasn't a thing that was happening internally within his campaign staff. He signed that he's just going to focus on being president. Didn't explain why he was deciding not to do this. The coronation started for Kamala Harris. We're going to get to that at the end. But I wanted to show a couple of things that have really got me scratching my head a little bit. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And I apologize, I'm on a laptop right now. I'm out of town. So it won't be as polished of a throwing clips around and everything. Share screen, I want to make sure I share the right one. Stalling for time, here we go. This is what's making the rounds on social media. The signature. This is the signature that came from his letter. That looks very different from the auto pen signature on file. Now, you look at this first bit, they're comparing it to the last 5 executive orders he's signed. He didn't actually sign those executive orders. I mean, I'm sure he did, but the official way it happens is usually auto pen, which is why if these look similar, it's because they're identical. He has signed something, and then the auto pen signs this stuff. So this is actually even more concerning because his last 5 executive orders don't seem to have been signed by his hand. They were signed by auto pen, which would be very easy to do if he was unable to sign. We've seen him up and about, so he is able to sign, at least he was when these were written. But if you wanted to just get something pushed through and signed without him really being briefed on it and paying attention to it, that would be a really good way to do it. But you'll notice that there are some really important parts of his signature that do not line up. And full disclosure, I'm not a signature analyst. I have seen more than my fair share of TV shows, movies, and live court cases where you have heard enough from these people to be able to tell that this signature is not the same as this signature, right? Just to be clear, look at how he does his R's. This is Joe Biden's auto pen signature. The R is big, it's sweeping, it's looping. The signature yesterday It's very, very haphazardly drawn. There's no flowing loops. It looks like someone just with chicken scratch knows that they have to do a capital R, but don't exactly know how to do it. You look at the B in his signature, it is one pen stroke. Starts at the bottom, goes up to the top, and draws that B that way. Yesterday's was two pen strokes, one straight line, and then the rest of the B. In his regular signature, you'll see that the end of the B goes into a sweep right into the I. So it's a little bit less pronounced in his auto pen, but he ends the B, and the pen really never leaves the page, and it swoops around right back into an I. Today, not the case. The B and the I are completely separate pen strokes. And his typical signature, the N, is a very pronounced. You can tell what it is. It's just a whoop N. Yesterday, the N was drawn somehow like an S. Not normal. And again, he does not typically underline his signatures. So you don't have to have a PhD or lots of field work in signature analysis to know that that signature is not the same as that signature.
I think you just laid out a case sufficient enough that if I was like a judge somewhere and I was worried about somebody's well-being and somebody was signing documents on their behalf,
yes,
and acting as them
yes,
in court, that wouldn't fly, right? Because
would not fly.
It's just not going to fly. So since you've made the case that the signatures don't match, then what's going on in Delaware right now? What's going on in the White House? Is Joe Biden with us? Is Joe Biden incapacitated? Can't Joe Biden actually sign his name? Did he lose that function a long time ago? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Biden could be without the power to read and write anymore. All right. Most likely read. He still has it because he does the teleprompter thing. But there's a possibility he can't write.
We don't know exactly. We do know, as of a little while ago, they've declared a no-fly zone around his house, which he's the president, so you would typically have a no-fly zone. It seems that they had to do this because they didn't know he was going to be there in advance. There would have been a standing no-fly order as soon as he got there, but it's been, I guess, extended. In my thinking, that suggests that he is either going to leave potentially, and they don't want crowded airspace, or they don't want people in the area with helicopters trying to get a picture of him either walking out or being carried out of his house. I mean, this is the conspiracy theory mindset. I hate this part of my lizard brain, right? Coming out. But before we get into this, I don't want to go too far. I don't think that it's Jill Biden who did this, because we can see that when things have been sent on Jill Biden's stationery, her B looks awfully similar to Joe Biden's B. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that Jill Biden signed that for him. This doesn't appear to be the same handwriting. What it does look like, and I'll again put it up, what this does look like are some of the documents that have been sent out on Joe Biden's behalf to voters, to constituents, that we all know Joe Biden didn't actually sign. So if you wanted to send a letter to the White House, you can do it for anything. Hey, my son was just born. My daughter was just born. Hey, I'm getting married. Hey, I just had my 60th anniversary. You send whatever letters you want to the White House, and it all gets compiled into a pile, and then they'll send out congratulations letters on your behalf. I got one from Trump back in 2016. I forget what it was all about, but I sent a letter to him, and I know he didn't sit at his desk and sign it. I know from the sheer volume of these things that presidents don't sit and sign it. So we know, is that my feedback that I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'm not getting anything on my end.
Okay.
I'm not hearing anything. I was just waiting for it certainly does look like Jill Biden may have had a hand in writing some of these. And it makes me wonder, I mean, did she do it more often than not? Was she acting as Joe Biden in certain situations?
I don't know. But what I was just saying before I tried to fix that echo that I was experiencing is this signature yesterday, which I have on the screen, looks more similar to the form letters that get sent out on Joe Biden's behalf that, again, we know aren't actually him, right?
Yeah.
We know it looks more like that than it looks like his real signature. So again, this is what came yesterday. This is him leaving office. Look at how the B is two distinct lines. Mm-hmm. This is his real signature, one B flowing, right? This is Jill Biden's signature. Again, B all one stroke, but flowing. And this is what gets sent out on Joe Biden's behalf. The B, it's not the same. It's not perfect, but the B looks closer to a staffer pretending to be Joe Biden than it does actually Joe Biden.
Hey, Max, this is all done when his people aren't there. In the midst of a political campaign that you may have dropped out, they're with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're tied to the hip. I don't care. You're not more than 20 feet away from the guy running or gal running your campaign, right? And if those people aren't there, and they're reducing the number of people that can see Joe Biden. So what are they trying to hide? What is being concealed here?
I got to real quick jump in. I apologize. Cannonball corrected me on Rumble. It's Dr. Jill Biden. I am so sorry. I would never want to discuss her without that superlative. Gosh, I apologize.
It makes it just all the what ifs start kicking in, right? As Joe Biden, we worried about the Joe Biden and the earlobe thing back in the day, and we got removed from the internet for it, right?
Yeah, I know.
But there are lots of people out there who are like, man, there's things about Joe Biden that don't match up. There's certain pictures where you're just like, man, it's highly coincidental. And I've got to imagine that the president does have a body double. I mean, it just has to happen. There's got to be certain public events where you want to send out the double in case it was.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We know he had plastic surgery. When we were on our old show, Conservative Daily, we covered it. We zoomed in. We saw the scars. He had a facelift. They tucked the ears back, right? They did some work on the nose and under here. We know he had that done. I don't want to go full blown into Saddam Hussein body doubles, but there are a lot of people who would stake their reputation on it, right?
Absolutely. I don't know if I was beyond the body double camp. I'm more of there's only so many times that you can have the top taken off and not have to get plastic surgery, right? And pin things in weird places.
I'm trying to figure out who just withdrew from the race yesterday. Because if this was a hostage situation and they released this letter over here, if this was a hostage situation and the hostage takers released this, you'd say, that's not proof of life. That's not his signature, right?
Yeah.
When Lyndon Johnson declined to accept his party's nomination, he did a full speech laying out why. This is a big deal. To drop out their plan, if they had their way, Josh, they would have already started nominating him. Their plan was to start nominating him yesterday and having electronic nominations. This is so late in the game.
Yeah.
Did he do this? Did he do this? Donald Trump doesn't seem to think so.
All right. So two things I want to touch on here. First, we said the clock was running a while back, right? And that's why they wanted to get the debate pushed so early. Right, probably because they knew that the clock was ticking even then. And if that's the case, then man, his downfall has been precipitous. It's bad. And now that kind of opens that up. The second is nobody has seen Joe Biden. And you would think the man who is the president of the United States should at least have a picture or something taken of him. And when you get locked up in a house and you're not allowed to leave and you're the president of the United States, feels like a hostage situation to me. And I've heard the word coup being thrown around. And the other part is does Joe Biden even know that he's being stuck at home right now? Or is he could be comatose?
That was the joke I posted yesterday on X, right? You think Democrats are mad. Imagine what Joe Biden's going to say when he realizes that someone withdrew for him, right?
Yeah.
This is what Trump put on Truth Social. It's a new day, and Joe Biden doesn't remember quitting the race yesterday. He is demanding his campaign schedule and arrange talks with President Xi of China and Putin of Russia concerning the possible start of World War III. Biden is sharp, decisive, energetic, angry, and ready to go. Right before coming to air, I just heard an announcement on the news that Netanyahu, his meeting with Biden, has been canceled. What's supposed to be happening,
today.
It's been canceled.
Yes.
Yes. Let me double check. Just
the
to
whole
make
reason that
sure
Bibby's over here. Yeah, because he was in town the day to meet with Biden to talk about all the war essentially and the resettlement and all those crazy things going over there. So what? Yeah, he looks like he's been taken out of the public eye, Max. And you only do that in the event that you can't keep Humpty Dumpty back together.
No.
Right? He's fallen off the wall. The pieces are everywhere. They're desperately trying to piece something. And at the same time, Hunter Biden drops his lawsuit against Fox News.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Yeah. They're all circling the wagons. I don't know if you saw this. I want to play this clip from CBS News because CBS had a quote from Joe Biden's brother, Frank, that seemed to be, pun intended, very frank.
Brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers. And here's what he told us. He said, "I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country."
I'm going to pause it there. The part of that statement that is getting people's attention is Frank Biden telling reporters he is selfishly happy that he will be able to enjoy whatever time he has left, whatever time Joe Biden has left. Yeah. That is not something you usually say absent a terminal diagnosis.
Correct.
I've never heard that ever said in a situation that someone didn't have a diagnosis of some kind or was so old that it's just like, okay, every day is a blessing. Like someone in their 90s or over 100. I could understand that being said, even if there's no underlying diagnosis. But for that quote to be given to the press that we are going to spend whatever time we have left is just such, it's hard to comprehend how he could say that to the press and there not be a terminal diagnosis. My dad's been saying for days that they're going to give Joe Biden milk of the poppy. He likes watching Game of Thrones. That's apparently the thing that you give to them when you want to suicide someone. I can't imagine ever saying that about a loved one if I didn't have reason to believe that their days were numbered.
When I heard that statement, I kind of went, what do they mean by the amount of time he's got left in the race, in his presidency, or in his life? And then all of the bells start going off in my head. The other part is he was diagnosed with COVID right before he dropped out, right? And they gave him another dose. They said the doctor this morning said he was given another dose of Plaxo, whatever it is, the antiviral. And he said his temperature is fine, his heart rate is fine, his O2 saturation levels are fine. And he only gave the vitals as being what's currently, that they're all okay, right? Doesn't mean that his mental health is improved or whatnot. So they're making the claim right now that Joe Biden is healthy. And that was about an hour ago on Fox News. If you head over there, you can see that the doctor had an update. And is it the truth?
We got a flight plan from Air Force Two. Air Force Two seems to have just left. I guess that was at Dover. That's the Air Force Base, Dover, and just flew to Delaware. I think you can probably count on two hands the number of times that Kamala Harris has flown to Delaware. Usually it's a family retreat. Usually number two is not invited.
Yeah. You usually don't want to have the vice president and the president together when they're outside the White House or Washington, D.C. I mean, they purposely try to keep them apart because you never want both leaders to, quote unquote, go at the same time, right?
That might explain the FAA flight restrictions.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have Kamala Harris there too. I mean, this is my brain is just, in order for the 25th Amendment to be triggered, it has to be initiated by the vice president and the cabinet. So if he, let's just say, God forbid, and as much as we despise Joe Biden's policies, as much as I think he is not a decent man as many people claim he is, the guy suffered a tremendous tragedy, the loss of his wife, and I believe a kid, but loss of family members. This is a man who went out for years and without evidence claimed that they were killed by a drunk driver. Just seem to have made that up completely. I don't think that Joe Biden is as decent of a man as many like to say, but I still don't wish him ill, which I think is a significant difference between the right and the left, especially after Donald Trump's attempted assassination. So the conspiracy theorist in me says, let's imagine he has COVID. Let's just say we don't have evidence to suggest this, but let's just think out loud. Suppose he's on a ventilator, right? Suppose he's on a ventilator and he is actually out, and that COVID just took a really bad turn. I don't think that's the case, but it's entirely possible.
Sure.
If you were Kamala Harris, you'd want to see that for yourself before invoking the 25th Amendment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If he had all of a sudden become just a vegetable, like 100 times worse than anything we've seen, you'd want to see that for yourself. You wouldn't want to take someone else's word for it, right? If you're in a different state, you can't invoke the 25th Amendment on a president that you haven't actually witnessed whatever would justify it.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Frank Biden statement is accurate and that something has happened terribly to Joe Biden's health just in the last 48, 72 hours to suggest that he might be experiencing something terminal, which again, we don't know, but it's very strange for a family member to say we're going to enjoy what time we have left. Very strange way to talk about that. It would make sense for Kamala to want to go there to at least see it for herself before taking the step to invoke the 25th Amendment against him. You can't invoke the 25th Amendment on hearsay.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
I heard it from a friend who, that's all. You can't use that to remove a president from the United States.
So if he is on a ventilator and he is incapacitated, if right now he is currently incapacitated, Kamala Harris is president of the United States.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, if she has to act, if he is completely incompetent, all of the calls would go to her, but she's got to go confirm it, right?
Yes. There are many things that Dr. Jill Biden can do. One of the things she cannot do is step down for Joe Biden as president. That would have to come from other people in the cabinet and have to be initiated by Kamala Harris. If this happens, you don't want to joke about this, but Donald Trump has a lot of Trump 47 merch that's about to become limited edition. Because if she is sworn in, that means that she would become the 47th president of the United States, and it would be Trump 48. Obviously, my sense of humor, I like to find humor in things that are tragic and uncomfortable, but we don't want to make a joke about this, obviously. But if I was in that situation and I saw this just come down, and maybe I got some word that it wasn't him who did this, maybe it was other people around who forged the signature, which if you're just joining the show now, went over earlier in this broadcast, the signatures do not line up. Signatures between Joe Biden's real signature and whatever was put on that document yesterday, the R, the B, the swoop into the I, the N, and underlining are not present the way they should be present. So if I'm Kamala Harris and I get wind that it wasn't him, it was actually his staff, right, and he's maybe in bad shape, yes, I would have to fly to Delaware, which we know that Air Force Two just did.
Max. The other thing is, and anybody who's had somebody who's been in late stage life and they're in the process of dying, it's never pretty. And the other is that if the president is on life support right now, which we've got no proof he is, but if he is on life support, the family now has to make a choice whether to take him off of that or not. Well,
that's not their choice, because that goes out of their hands. So if the president is experiencing a medical emergency, for all of the power that Dr. Jill Biden claims to have, she would not have the power to unplug and kill the president of the United States. She has a lot of power.
So who's it going to be?
That is not allowed. And even if it was to be transferred through 25th Amendment, they could use that. They still couldn't kill him. He's still a Secret Service protectee.
Yeah.
He's still a Secret Service protectee. So we've never had a situation like that. We've never had a situation where a Secret Service protectee could be on life support and there are people in his immediate vicinity who want to kill him. We've never had that situation. We've never had Secret Service draw their weapons to stop someone from unplugging a ventilator or a monitor. And again, we don't know exactly what's going on.
No.
We are starting to believe that Joe Biden is either incapacitated. We know he was sick, but it seems that he was incapacitated, at least to the point where they were able to release that letter yesterday without him knowing about it, because these signatures do not line up. They don't line up. They just don't. That doesn't look like his real signature. That signature yesterday looks like when people in his staff sign on his behalf. And
Max, if he is incapacitated, Kamala Harris needs to hurry and become president. She has to. We have to have a commander-in-chief.
Well, we haven't had a commander-in-chief. Legally, yes, we haven't had a commander-in-chief in a long time. I think, God forbid that happens. I think one of the weird things to realize will be that Dr. Jill was a better president than Kamala Harris. But I hope we never reach that point. This is all going to go fast. And this is where one of the narratives that's going to happen, and is coming out of the Republican camp, because you don't want to make ill of anyone's decline. We've known he was not well for 4+ years. They've said he doesn't have a diagnosis. There's nothing wrong with him, right? Joe Biden, as recently, has been saying he doesn't have a diagnosis. There's nothing wrong with him. Like, the first thing I thought yesterday when the news broke that he had withdrawn from the race, I looked at my family and I said, what are you talking about? It's just a cold, right? It's just jet lag. Because they've had so many excuses for it. I do not believe that it is possible for him to catch COVID or whatever this supposedly terminal illness is, based on Frank Biden's comments to the press. I don't think it's possible to have a decline that just happened over the last 72 hours, unless this is actually COVID taking a terrible turn, right? If it's anything other than that, they have to have known about that. And if they knew about that and they covered it up, Kamala Harris is complicit in that cover-up. There are miles and miles. If it wasn't digital, if it was analog, you'd say there's miles and miles of tape of Kamala Harris saying Joe Biden is sharp, he's with it, he's a perfect president. It seems very obvious to all of us that he's not. And as Kamala Harris travels now to Delaware aboard Air Force Two, you have to wonder, given everything we already know about all of this, you have to wonder whether that question we were all asking yesterday, how can he drop out of the race and still be president? The answer might be the people around him dropped out of the race for him, and they don't have the power to abdicate the presidency on his behalf.
No.
That might be the answer, unfortunately.
Charlie Kirk had posted a couple hours ago claiming he kind of got and I'll be paraphrasing this, got a lead on a story that people should look into. He claimed that he got a call from a source close to Las Vegas Metro. The official story was that Joe Biden's trip was cut short last week due to COVID. However, according to this source, U.S. Secret Service informed Las Vegas Metro that there was an emergency situation involving Joe Biden, and to close necessary streets so the POTUS could be transported immediately to University Medical.
That was
then to Johns Hopkins afterwards.
That was very similar to the Laura Loomer leak that everyone criticized her for. And listen, I don't know a lot about Laura Loomer, never met her. She seems to be right more than 50-50. I probably put her more in the Alex Jones realm of how often she's right versus how often she's wrong, which is more often right than wrong. But you have to wonder, why would Biden's team be leaking to her? That's always a question. Why would the Biden White House, who up until this point has been leak free, why would they leak to a conservative, like, for lack of a better word, influencer on social media? It's just a lot more questions. But that lines up with what she was saying, which was that there was a medical emergency. She had said it happened on board. That suggested it happened before he boarded Air Force One. We'll have to see.
There's a lot here leaning towards that currently Joe Biden is incapacitated. He has to, if he's okay, even if he's lying in bed and he's got oxygen on, he needs to put on his face and tell the American people he's alive.
Yeah.
If we don't see him in the next 24 hours, I'm calling on. We need to see him. I don't think he's. We need to see him.
You gotta see him. And listen, the one thing that separates us from the left, who are celebrating the would-be assassin's bullet, wishing it had moved over a little bit, is that we don't want Joe Biden dead.
No.
What I've been saying for years is that the man belongs in a home. I said the same thing about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that she belonged in a home. And this idea of forcing people well past their retirement date, where they should probably get out of politics, keeping them in positions of power because it benefits your ideology. It's cruel. It's unjust. It should be illegal. If this wasn't politics and you were talking about like if you tried to pass off that signature yesterday saying, oh yeah, he just transferred me the deed of the house, it wouldn't fly if you knew everything that was going on with the person doing the signing. So we don't want him dead. We want them to live out their life in a compassionate setting where they can get the medical care that they need. But it's the Democrats and the left who seem hell-bent on making these people die in office, all because it benefits their political agenda. What were you going to say?
Well, how the reports are that Joe Biden has taken his 10th dose of Paxlovid. That's a lot. Like I'm just trying to find out how many you can take now. Because if he's on his 10th dose, man, that means that he could have been really, really sick, right?
Could have been really sick.
Could have been really, really sick, and right now he's recovering, right? But hopefully he's recovered, and there's already a bunch of things that are just combined that he's already fighting against: old age, COVID coming up. He's already got dementia, so just a little bit in reduction of O2 levels can have a devastating effect on the brain.
Yeah.
And so how many doses of Paxlovid can you get? I mean, the doctors say he's fine, but I thought you could only like a max of 3 or something. That was crazy. I'm kind of blown away.
I don't exactly know. I know that they are they're gonna go beyond whatever the recommends. But this is why we kind of have to ask these questions, because someone in the comment section, who was it just now? They're still using his X account. To tweet about abolishing the police as recently as 12 minutes ago. Respectfully, read the room. We need proof of life. Yes. And this is why this is why we need that. This week, Sheila Jackson Lee passed away. I'm sure you remember seeing that. Sheila Jackson,
I know, yeah.
Congresswoman from Texas. Mm-hmm. She, again, I think that she was vile. I disagree with everything in her politics. It saddens me for anyone to die in office. Sounds like she had pancreatic cancer. My heart goes out to her family members. Absolutely. I have no sympathies for her staff, who have been directly implicated in illegal ballot harvesting through area retirement homes, stealing ballots from old people and signing them on their behalf and registering them to vote and then voting on their behalf. No sympathy for her staff right now on their unemployment. But the reason I say that is that after the news was released that she had passed away, someone went on to her Twitter account and was still liking and retweeting things. Now, those have since been deleted, but they had done that. They had actually gone in and retweeted other politicians talking about her passing. The idea that someone can pass away and their social media account keeps posting without delineating that this isn't her, these are other people, is crazy. And that led to people online saying, is she really dead? She's still on social media. Obviously, it was her staff trying to commemorate her, trying to retweet other politicians honoring her. Those have since been, as I can see, deleted. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder because, again, this Joe Biden announcement came not in the form of a press release on White House stationery, not in the form of a press conference or a video or a photograph. It came from Joe Biden's personal stationery on a letter that we already know his lawyer wrote. That's come out. His lawyer wrote the letter, signed with a signature that we've spent, for anyone just joining now, we spent the better part of the beginning of this show proving pretty adamantly, even though we're not experts in signatures, that these are not the same signature. Put it up again. This is Joe Biden's signature that gets signed with auto pen for everything. And this is what appeared on that letter yesterday. Not the same R, not the same B or I or N. No underline should be there. Different signature. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just hope like it wasn't a coup. Like taking this guy because he doesn't know where he's at, locking up in the house, and then signing a letter saying that I'm not going to do it, like run for office. Yeah, if there was a coup against the president of the United States, like that would be unprecedented, right? And it's probably most likely his closest family members. So how can we look at the Bidens and now say that, Dr. Joe Biden's a good wife at this point? I mean,
we know she's done. She's weekend at Bernie's him for years.
So who's making the shots? Who's calling that shot then? Who's over there getting him locked up, telling him that he needs to stop running for president, and then he's not allowed out of the house? I mean, if I'm the Secret Service, he's either at the White House or he's at, the hospital, right? There's only places that they're not going to be with him. Are the Secret Service with him right now? Because if you're not, he has all the secrets of the United States. With all the access, right?
And again,
somebody has some control of him right now.
This might be why Kamala Harris, and I keep, apparently you're not supposed to say Kamala, even though Kamala would be how you would pronounce it for her Indian heritage. She likes Kamala. But I'm going to bounce back and forth because I know people who pronounce it both ways. Yeah. Harris, that might be why Harris is flying to Delaware, which again, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but she has to invoke the 25th Amendment. Absent him stepping down, she would have to invoke it. And ethically, not saying that Democrats and liberals are really bound up in ethics, but ethically, you can't use secondhand information to remove the president of the United States. You can't have someone call, I hear he's incapacitated. You got to go and check it out yourself. And you've got to find some evidence to believe it, to support that before you go ahead and invoke the 25th Amendment. That might be why she's there. Really, sadly, if Frank Biden's words to the CBS News reporter are correct, whatever time we have left, this might be a goodbye trip. We don't know. According to Frank Biden, Joe Biden's brother, he says that he seems to suggest that Joe Biden has limited days left. That there's some kind of diagnosis that they haven't been telling. Again, the only reason I say that is because I've never heard of someone saying they're going to spend what time they have left with someone without there being a terminal diagnosis underlying that statement. But everything's moving so fast. I know by the time we end this show and it goes out on audio edition, I know by the time we do that, it's going to be, there's an answer, right? And so we're not going to definitively say that he's incapacitated, but if he was incapacitated, all the things that we're seeing, we're talking about right now would make more sense.
And are things being signed on his behalf right now while he's MIA? I mean, like who's running things, right? That's the next step. So it would make a lot of sense that she should be heading there to try to. There's got to be a peaceful transition of power, right? That's where we're at, because I have very little faith that he's capable of executing the office of the United States right now, or president. And we may be
this is on a real stationary physician to the White House. President Biden completed his 10th dose, as you just said, of Paxlovid. His symptoms have almost completely resolved. His pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and temperature remain absolutely normal. His oxygen saturation continues to be excellent on room air. His lungs remain clear. This doctor seems to suggest that he's not on a ventilator or anything like that.
Hold on.
They're saying excellent on room air. They ran this up the chain. What do we need to say? If they had said his oxygen saturation is excellent and they just left it at that, then it could be that he has some kind of breathing assistance. Lungs remain clear. The president continues to perform all his presidential duties. The problem with that statement is he just canceled his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. So this conflicts with what we just learned happened. That's like the Biden officials who went on all the Sunday shows yesterday morning and said, we are going to continue to fight this race. That conflicts with the very reality of that letter that was sent out on his social media accounts.
Well, the devil's in the details here.
I'm not convinced he sent it.
No, the devils are in the details here. Yes, his oxygen rate is fine. Doesn't mention if he's conscious. It does. Yeah. It doesn't. It's just giving you the pieces to say that his vitals are going. That's all we've been told. That his vitals are functioning.
At the same time, though, like you could say that about lots of things on it. Like, oh, it doesn't say that he has 2 arms and 2 legs. Maybe he got.
Well, hold on. But they usually. How many other times has he been told that he's up, he's with it, and he's always talking? Right. Suddenly, he's gone from being sharp as a tack and always there to. Everything seems to be fine vitals wise.
Yeah.
Right. We're not getting the full truth on it. And the doctor's just putting out what he has to. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's damage control.
I would probably guess. If you were to tell me that this was a lie, I would guess that the whole thing is a lie rather than it being, oh, well, I said this, but it was actually this, right? Like rather than being like, oh, well, it's room air, but it's room air coming through a ventilator. You know what I mean? Like I would venture to say the whole thing is a lie before it's parsed to find lies in between the lines.
And the thing is if we don't want our enemies to know that the president is currently incapacitated and the vice president's on their way to get control of everything, right? I mean, this is like it would be a tactical advantage to know that your enemy's leaders are out of commission if you were to do something crazy and launch, right? So there might be a little bit of that cloak and dagger stuff that's going on because they have to. I mean, it's a matter of national security. People cannot know that the president's incapacitated. But with the rest of us, we need to know if he's incapacitated. So we begin the line of a transition of power.
And here's the thing. Joe Biden's letter yesterday, when it discussed his letter, the letter that was sent out from his Twitter profile, X profile, it didn't mention endorsing Kamala Harris. It just said that he appreciates everything she's done for him. Everyone, I'm sure you, myself included, said, oh my goodness, he didn't endorse Kamala Harris. All of the news sites, TV shows, pundits immediately say he has dropped out of the race and not endorsed Kamala Harris. What do we get minutes later? We got another post from social media, not even with his signature, just with a stock photo of the two of them together, where the social media intern or whoever wrote it said, I endorse Kamala Harris. Again, this is the conspiracy theorist in me, because the leaks that we've been getting out of the White House over the past week or two has been that he will not endorse her. So in a world where he is incapacitated or maybe not completely cogent to the point where you put something in front of him, he'll sign it, right? If you want to take advantage of someone like that, you get them to sign the bit that doesn't have the endorsement so that they actually sign it and they don't put up a stink. And then you go around their back and you post on social media, oh no, that was actually an endorsement. I endorse them. Like that would be how you would take advantage of someone in this situation if you wanted them to endorse, but knew that they wouldn't. And knew that they, people are saying Kamala. What's the official way? What's the official way?
So here's the thing is that imagine the kind of photo op they can create now. Kamala with Biden in his last moments as they hold hands. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's going to be some content that comes out of this that is just going to be kind of on the gross side of collecting extra stuff.
I just got the pronunciation. Kamala.
Right. And
Kamala
they're going to try
would be like the Indian, sorry.
No worries. I mean, she's very specific, but you know, there's going to be a photo op. We may be learning right now. There may be the transition of power may be happening as we speak. We just don't know unless she's there already.
We don't know.
And nobody's going to know.
And again, you don't have to be the president of the United States to withdraw from the DNC race. You would like to think that he did that on his own power, but you could use a letter written by someone else, put it in front of him, and have him write or have someone else write on his behalf and send that out on his social media platform. I guarantee Joe Biden doesn't even know the password for his social media profile, right? It wasn't on White House stationery. The signature doesn't match his signatures. It matches the signature of the staffers who sign things on his behalf. And there's no photo or video evidence of him putting it out. So you could do that. You could withdraw him from the DNC. The DNC isn't going to put up a fight, right? They want him gone anyway. You can't do that to take him out of the presidency. There's lots of things. I said this earlier in the show. Say again. There's lots of things that Dr. Jill Biden can do on Joe Biden's behalf. Declaring war, not one of them, right? Ordering an airstrike, not one of them. Releasing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, not one of them. She can't do any of the things that require that signature. She also cannot resign on his behalf.
Yeah, or even pull the plug. And I was curious about that one because, what point does it become a family choice versus the nation's choice, right? And that's one of the delicate things about being president of the United States. And the other thing is this stinks like a Chinese communist move. And here's why: because people in China, like when you get rid of somebody, they always put this letter out saying that I've done something bad and I'll be re-educating myself and I'll return when I can. And they put a picture out and the person's smiling in the picture and it's a release, which is exactly like what happens with Joe Biden, right? Nobody's seen him. They used an old picture of him in the release. This is a letter he hasn't signed. Like the president of the United States is missing, right? And, you watch the movie National Treasure. If the president's missing for just a few minutes, people lose their minds.
Yes.
So where's the president? He needs to show his face.
There is a word that everyone needs to learn because it's the word that we're going to have to use to describe this. And people are not going to know what it means. And you're going to have to define it to them. The word is defenestration. Defenestration means the act of throwing someone out a window, or informally, the swift dismissal or expulsion of someone from a political party or political office. Removing someone very quickly from a position of power. But the formal one would be like throwing someone out a window. If this was Russia, remember when Vladimir Putin's enemies just all started falling out of windows?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, just a different method. Defenestration. That is what's happening with Joe Biden right now. They pulled the plug on his money, his donations. They probably pulled the plug on other things we don't even know about, all to force him out. They are in the act of doing this to him right now, and we all need to learn this word. It's a cool word.
Defenestration. We're not asking you to spell it.
Not able to use it in a lot of situations. Defenestration. Again, not a lot of times you need to know how to describe someone being thrown out a window, right? But in this situation, it also does apply.
Wow. He needs to show his face. He has to come forward, man. If he doesn't show anything by tonight, we know something's up. Because if he doesn't do it tonight, he's not going to do it tomorrow or the next day. And then
Chandy asks on Rumble, over under that China goes after Taiwan in the next 3 months. I'm surprised China isn't already rolling up onto the beaches.
Right. In the next 3 hours, 3 minutes, right? Because this would be the time to do it, which is why there's probably all this secrecy around it, right? I mean, that's why I was saying there's the national defense implications and the world organization implications, right? How those power brokers think. And if you've got a temporary lapse, minutes in lapse in a response from the president of the United States, boy, that's a dangerous window because, we're caught with our pants down right now.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought because I don't think the vice president has access to the nuclear football. I think the president's the only one that can launch those codes, right? And I don't know. I mean,
and here's the thing: you can get that temporary access, like George H.W. Bush gave it to Cheney when he went in for surgery. But that still requires him to actually, in front of a witness, sign the order. I am giving up the presidency from this time to this time, barring any unforeseen circumstances. I expect to be out and I'll resume. Dr. Jill Biden and Joe Biden's campaign staff can't do that on his behalf. They don't have the power, the authority to do it, which again might be why we now have Kamala Harris flying into a COVID quarantine. You would think if he has COVID, the last place you'd want is the first in line to succession.
Well,
to be
she's
in
wearing a
that
mask.
same room.
She's got a mask.
That doesn't
She's
matter.
Got a mask. She's got a mask. She'll be fine.
If there's even the slightest possibility, you don't put two people in the same room if he has a sickness, an illness. You don't. But we'll see.
And the reason I think it is a real thing because nobody's mentioning it on the legacy media, right?
Yeah.
This is the most like everybody knows it's happening, but nobody's talking about it. It's just so in your face right now, and they're not touching it because if any of these agencies had any journalistic integrity, they'd be reporting on this stuff by the moment, but they're ignoring it, which tells me that something's up. There's something definitely very fishy, and it's going to break at any moment. That's going to be the wild thing, right? It's going to break at any moment.
This feels like a situation where they have told the legacy media something, and they have put a quarantine or whatever the word, a block on that coming out until a certain time, and people aren't in legacy media are forced to honor that. Right. So we'll see. We only have a couple minutes left. It feels weird, but we're going to do it. Talking about the political reality, based on the reporting today, Kamala Harris has more than half of the delegates pledged to her. So barring any flip, she will be nominated to be the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. They're not hard pledged. If Joe Biden said he's not doing it, so that means they're unpledged. They can go wherever they want, but state Democrat Party leaders are pledging their entire slates of delegates to her. They can't literally do that, but it sounds like that's how it's going to go. Sounds like she's already secured the delegates, or at least thinks she secured the delegates necessary to be the nominee. So I wanted to at least talk about the very real political reality of Kamala Harris running against Donald Trump. And we do have the Harris-Forbes poll out today, conducted from July 19th through July 21st. So it does include yesterday. Most of it's before yesterday, but still it does include a little bit of yesterday. And what that showed, surprising no one, is Donald Trump leading 50-41 against Harris. If you take all of the 9% unsure and force them to pick a side, Donald Trump's leading 53-47 nationwide against Kamala Harris. Does that surprise you?
No, I mean, Trump said she would be an easier opponent, and it probably has to do with her intellectual nature. I don't know. She's probably a smart cat. I mean, she was sleeping with everybody. I mean, if you can hang out with Montel Williams and become famous that way, she's obviously very smart. But nobody wants her as president. I mean, she didn't even poll well when she ran against Joe Biden back in 2020. I mean, she was so bad they asked her to drop out. And now, I mean, obviously they want her in because they know this is most likely a throwaway candidate. You're not going to put your A team on the line here and let them lose in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to throw your C teamer out there because at this point, it's just about trying to maximize the amount of money that you get in donations. They may not spend it all on this race. Why would they blow through all that cash just for this? That's
the bit. It kind of has to be her. The argument they're making is that the money that came into Joe Biden was for Biden and Harris. They're saying that was a ticket. Whether they filed the paperwork properly, that's going to come down to the cross the T's, dot the I's. Technically, he is the presidential candidate. He is the one running for office. She doesn't become his VP until the DNC nominates her. So she's not running. Like, there's not a single election anywhere in the country where her name appears on it. So they're claiming, though, that she had filed paperwork to be the vice president, that they're running as a ticket. We'll have to see how that lines up. If they succeed in that argument, then she gets all of the money. Now, where I think this is going to come into a bit of conflict is they're saying she raised $86 million yesterday.
Yeah.
I would venture to guess that there are at least some of those people who had previously donated the maximum amount to Joe Biden.
Yeah.
If they donated the maximum amount to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is claiming that was actually to her all along, then the minute that they donate even $1 above the cap, they've just broken the law, campaign finance law violation. All that money has to be refunded. So I will wait to see that tally because that's going to take some time to cross-reference. And the treasurer of these campaigns, whoever it is not dumb enough to let that slide. It would have catastrophic consequences. But you know that there are people who have already donated the maximum amount to Joe Biden. In their head, they're going to think, oh, well, now I'm donating to Kamala. But according to the FEC filings that I've seen, she's trying to say that this was my money all along and it was always to me.
Wow. The thing is that this money might be tied up in litigation to the point where they can never use it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I would, if I was the GOP, I would sue right now. Right now and tie it up. And maybe you win, maybe you lose, but at the very least, you tie it up for a little bit.
Yeah. If I'm Kennedy, I sue too. I mean, if they're all going to play the game, they should both be suing. That way, they both have to be at least adjudicated in some way. So I don't even know if they're going to be able to use the cash that's thrown their way. What I think is we're going to see is a lot of rules being broken.
Yes.
All in the name of democracy.
Yes.
Right. The very party that says we have to follow the rules to preserve democracy are willing to say we have to now break the rules in order to preserve democracy.
They're already doing it. Josh, Kamala Harris has never, not once, received a primary vote.
Wow.
She dropped out months before Iowa. She wasn't in the Iowa caucuses. She never received a primary vote. Not in 2020. And not this time around either. Because again, when people are going, they're not saying, I vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They're voting for Joe Biden. She is the presumptive VP. There was lots of talks, even leaks from Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, that if Joe Biden was the nominee a second time, he would ditch Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Those were leaks that they were thinking about, how do we ditch her? Mm-hmm. No one has ever cast a primary ballot for Kamala Harris. You have to think that if they were honest and said what they knew all along, which was Joe Biden would never be the nominee, if Kamala Harris had been given to the American electorate, the Democrat Party voters, as the option, I don't think she wins with 3,900 of the 3,950 pledged delegates.
Yeah.
There would have been a contested primary. Maybe she comes out on top, maybe not. But it wouldn't have just been a coronation, which is what it was for Joe Biden. So this idea that she has to be the nominee, I mean, if Joe Biden's dropping out because of the polls, every poll that says he would lose to Donald Trump, they've all been asking the hypotheticals. Well, would you change your mind if it was Trump versus Harris? And sometimes Kamala Harris is a little bit better. Oftentimes she's worse in those polls. But but universally, all of the polls that say Donald Trump would beat Joe Biden also said that Donald Trump would beat Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
So what you mentioned earlier might be true. This might be a throwaway. If I am Gavin Newsom, if I am Gretchen Whitmer, if I am Josh Shapiro, and my eye is set on a presidential run in 2028, do I want to tarnish my name and ruin my political future to run on the ticket because the last guy who was run was beaten 3 months early? I mean, let's be clear. What Donald Trump just did is he beat Joe Biden under budget ahead of schedule. Right? He did.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the best way to say it.
And that's how Trump loves to say it. Under budget ahead of schedule. You're welcome. Who
and it would also explain why Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton haven't jumped in. Because Hillary Clinton, if she thought she could win, she would be in there so fast, like there would be skid marks on the ground where the tires took off, right? If Michelle was there, she doesn't want to be part of this. She wants her own run. She's not going to go in on this black woman going against black woman race, right? There's too much face to be lost there with the party of diversity.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. Plus, Obama she'll probably run in 24, right? She will be the picked candidate. And that's what she's being groomed. So there's no way they're gonna put in their A team right now. You just let this thing end. The idea was to let Joe stay in, and that's where he was sticking. And while a lot of people got behind him after that, because it's like, all right, we've established that Joe's going to be here. We're willing to throw this one away. And then all of this stuff happens with Joe getting COVID, and he's in Delaware now. The vice president is flying there. They might have had to force their hand and put in Kamala. right? Because they were more than willing to let Joe Biden carry this one to defeat. They're fine with it. And you're not going to waste your good ammo on bad game. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to see the rise of Kamala Harris, and I think what's going to happen is, it's just a prediction, that not all of the votes go to her at the convention. It's going to be wild, man. I don't know what's going to happen. Like the Democratic Party is in such disarray. They never faced a problem like this before.
No.
Maybe prior to Nixon, maybe during Reagan.
Poll just out from Morning Consult. They did 4,000 registered voters yesterday and today. Snap poll, Donald Trump leading nationally, Kamala Harris 2 points. Nationally doesn't matter. That's the popular vote, right?
Yeah.
I expect that if Kamala Harris is the nominee, she will win the popular vote. The devil's in the details of Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina,
Michigan,
Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Iowa's already gone, so I won't even list them. That. If Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris in the registered voters, remember, this is registered voters.
These are people that are likely to vote.
That just means that not likely to vote.
No, not likely to vote.
Just means that if you wanted to cast a ballot, you could.
Oh.
What you should be asking is likely voters.
Yeah.
Registered voters are what you asked months ago. Likely voters, the first early voting starts in 48 days. So
they don't even have enough time for a ground game for her.
No.
I mean, they are trying able, man.
They should be doing likely voters. And when you look at this poll that we just mentioned for Harris Forbes, they are saying likely voters. And among likely voters, Trump is winning 51-40. So this might be tacitly them using registered voters to make this look closer than it is. Because poll results for registered voters doesn't mean anything if those registered voters are unlikely to vote. And that's where it becomes a turnout game, right? That's where it becomes a turnout game.
Oh my gosh. I mean, if you just head over to 538, I mean, the world is on fire over there.
It was very fun. It was very fun on 538 to watch their projection. Yeah. And at the moment that Joe Biden withdrew from the race, 538 still said that Joe Biden wins 51 out of 100 times the race is run. Right? It's like they've since added a disclaimer to the top. Yeah. Right? But Joe Biden, just to show you how off they are, Joe Biden just dropped out in shame at the time when 538 said he was the leading candidate. Not because of polls, just because their gut told him that he would win.
And Trump is still killing Harris in most of the Forbes polls. I mean, it's not even. He's up +10, +11 in some likely voters. They're doing likely voters.
Yes. Likely
voters.
Oh my
gosh.
Likely voters. Now that you're getting this close, again, 47, 48 days until early voting starts, I believe in Pennsylvania is where it starts. But the first state is a month and a half away. So you can't keep doing registered voters. You have to start talking about who says I'm going to vote.
Yeah.
Because registered voters haven't actually said they plan on voting. It's just that they're registered to vote. And then you start to ask them, how likely are you to vote? Are you likely? They say very likely. I'll crawl over broken glass, right? That's why you need to do those likely voter polls, because if Donald Trump is winning and all of his voters say, yeah, I'd crawl over a lava pit to vote for him. Meanwhile, the other side's like, yeah, if I have time, that's significant. You have to measure that. You have to measure that. Before we go, I want to play one ad that's come out. I got to download.
Can't wait for this.
I wish that the Trump team let you download all of their stuff on Twitter.
Oh my gosh.
It's a very simple thing to fix. All they need to do is just check a box that says, yes, people can download it. But let me go ahead and add this video file. This is the Trump ad that's already running in swing states.
Was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
But Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. They created this mess. Kamala owns this failed record. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Wow, good job, gang. Wow.
That was running minutes after this announcement. They had this ready to go.
Yeah, it was in their back pocket, which is brilliant. Tim Burchett posted 31 minutes ago that there's a Secret Service hearing. We are in serious trouble, folks.
A Secret Service what?
We're a Secret Service hearing. We are in serious trouble, folks. I'm trying to listen to him now.
Oh, no, that's happening in Congress, right?
31 minutes. Okay, I didn't know if it was relating to what we're seeing now.
That's the head of the Secret Service.
I didn't know if there was anything starting to break, because if it does break, it's going to happen fast.
It won't come from them. They will swear. They're sworn to secrecy. They'll never say anything unless Joe Biden.
They do know.
Unless Joe Biden likes to skinny dip with female Secret Service men, which did come out.
Wait, who did?
Joe Biden likes to skinny dip. Only when the female Secret Service are around.
Those poor girls.
I know. Before we go, the other video that is making the rounds now is to show precisely why Kamala Harris dropped out with 0 votes in the Iowa caucuses, dropped out months before. It was because of this absolute shellacking she received from Tulsi Gabbard on the debate stage.
Bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
Ouch.
That is why Kamala Harris never received a single vote in the Democrat primary in 2020. And that is because she took a shellacking. Tulsi Gabbard has now endorsed Donald Trump. She's with him all the way. She left the Democrat Party. So expect, if Kamala Harris survives and becomes the DNC nominee, expect Tulsi Gabbard to be going on the stump, rehashing these greatest hits, because her job during that primary was to take her out, and she did it. Kind of like how Vivek's job was to take out like Nikki Haley and some of the other people this time around. Expect to hear more from Tulsi Gabbard, because Tulsi Gabbard has left the Democrat Party, released a whole memoir talking about how her opinions on everything from guns, immigration have changed. Expect her to come out swinging. Yeah, that's all I got. You got anything?
Well, I'll start the music, but I can't wait for the day that Donald Trump has to debate Kamala Harris.
You don't do it. Here's why. Donald Trump comes out and says, the last time I debated your standard bearer, I shellacked him and beat him so badly, I drove us into a national crisis. I will not risk doing that again to this nation. So respectfully, I decline to do it. Why give her a chance to bloody you?
Yeah.
You're the heavyweight champion of the world. You don't go out and pick fights with potential contenders. You fight the fights that you have to fight to defend the belt. I'm sorry, he negotiated 2 debates with Joe Biden. He didn't negotiate a debate with Kamala Harris. And in fairness, the last time he debated their standard bearer, he beat the piss out of him.
Knock him out clean.
That not only did he knock him out of the race, but now people are like, is he still alive?
Yeah, I want to know, is Joe Biden alive?
For the good of the country, you don't put the country through that again.
No.
And that's a sassy way of saying, no, you're not getting a debate. But a week ago, the DNC and the Biden camp were accusing J.D. Vance of trying to avoid debating Kamala Harris, when all J.D. Vance and the Trump team said is, we'll think about debating whoever the VP nominee is, and we know it's not going to be Kamala Harris. So they want to be snarky. We can be snarky back. Sorry, Donald Trump agreed to two
debates. You got what you
debates
got
with Joe Biden. You're already seeing him do that. Yeah, he's already seen him do that. I agreed to a debate on ABC with Joe Biden. That's null and void. Maybe we do a debate on Fox News with Kamala.
We'll see. I don't think she'll ever do it.
They have no bargaining leverage. And what are they just going to do? Every time he beats the piss out of someone on a debate, they're just going to pull the money and throw someone up there? No, at some point, make your choice.
I mean, that's what they're doing now. So I don't think she'd be able to last, but he probably won't do it because the way you mentioned it there. But I don't think she would be able to handle it in actual debate.
What's the point? You come and say, what's the point of debating someone if when I beat the piss out of her, they're just going to throw up someone else? No. Make your choice. Choose your fighter.
It's going to be fun to see what happens.
That's it for this edition. We'll obviously keep you apprised. We're all going to be checking those updates all week. If you like the show, if you're watching us on Twitter, X, welcome. We go live on Twitter, on Rumble, on YouTube. So make sure you follow this Twitter account, X account. Go and follow us on YouTube and Rumble as well. We go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday with shows like this. Try and keep it fun, but also try and keep it informative. We also have the audio edition of the podcast available everywhere the audio podcasts are found. So go ahead and subscribe to that. We try and make it audio friendly so you can listen as you're commuting, driving around. That's it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together. See you next time.
See you.